Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone had a very good sleep after yesterday's great hospitality by University of Tartu and Toivo. I hope everyone safely arrived. In case of those who weren't here last night, welcome again. Now we go for the second plenary session, but maybe the first really working with really interesting and important content input from our three guests, some of whom will be online and some are present here. So that will be a challenge for the chair of the session. I must say I have no experience of chairing on-site a meeting where some people are present and some are remote. So I would like to welcome in particular those who will contribute to our thinking about how we can work together towards the development of ERA, the European Research Area. And in the first place, I would like to welcome Jiří Fernández-Rodríguez from University of Gothenburg and also the president of Course Technologies for Life network, which is an important and very wide, if I may say, network that reaches also across continents, and so also an important partner for this discussion. And Jiří will then be followed by Simona Rataj from University of Ljubljana and Kurt Deketelaere, who is Secretary General of League of European Research Universities. But those two guests will come later. So Jiří, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jiří, and also for pronounce my name perfect, Jiří, not Julia. After living in Sweden, I'm more Julia than Jiří, but yes, because definitely, now it's here. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me and for giving me this opportunity to speak not only about the core technologies for life science, for the association, but for the core facilities. Because I think the core facilities, as the name say, is the core. And I hope after this talk, it will be even more the core. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Katarina. She's not here because she has something more important to do today, taking this baby. But thank you to her and here and participating for this beautiful alliance you have. Because I think that's the way to go. The way to go is to go together, united and not divide, and to look for the similarities and not the differences. This is the only way to succeed, and this is the only way as well the core facilities during all the existence, that I will tell you a little story, is not very long that we have core facilities. And I think the core facilities definitely are a prerequisite for the breakthroughs that you will have in life science. But not only in life science, also in social science, or in humanities, or in physical science. Look at the SER, the ALMA, big research infrastructures built by our colleagues in the physical science. We need to take note of that, and the only way we can do it is by doing what you're doing here right now, is by alliance. That's where our colleagues in physics and material science have done for many years. I don't know if you have seen papers published by them, but you have 100 names in the paper, and they divide them by the author for the alphabetic order. It doesn't matter who is the last or the first. The important thing is to have the paper, and to have the community, and to show the people that actually something is going on. As well, thank you to Katarina and the group, the focus group, that unfortunately I will miss the talk this afternoon, the meeting. I will be on my way to Sweden. Yes, I'm Spanish, but working in Sweden. And that's science. That's the beauty of science. Sometimes you sit in a table and everybody is working not exactly in the country where they're born. And I think I love that. That's part of the alliance. core facilities is actually a concept that does not have 100 years, 200 years. Probably the name, yes, the core, but core facilities actually was boosted in the 2000s, around 1990, all the genomic era. Everybody want to have sequencers, everybody want to have people, because the important thing is the people, not the machines. You can buy €1 million machine, but if you don't have a person to run, it doesn't work. It started that, emerging there, bioinformatics. Everybody take it by granted, but it actually bordered as well. And now we cannot live without our friends bioinformaticians and helping us to analyze all this fantastic data we're taking, not only in the genome, but also in the proteome afterwards. And thank you to that as well on imaging, and this is where I'm coming. My job and where I feel very proud is not only because I have a PhD, but that because I'm a facility staff. And I have been like that for more than 20 years. Is I say that this is in 2000, we opened our facility in 2002. It's quite a long time for opening. And what was more important at that moment is that facility was open as an open access. Means that from the beginning, and it was the first one in Sweden in imaging, that was open for anyone, meaning academia, industry, anyone that need help, in my case, with microscopes. And what the important thing was not only that we started with the core facilities, technology and expertise was centralized, but one of the important things, and I think as well is making the difference today in science, is that we don't have one man show or one women show. We have a team-oriented science, team science. And this is the only way to work, and this is going together with the PIs, not only the staff, the facility staff, but actually the the investigators, and they know that. And that's where you see now more and more, especially in the younger generations of PIs, that they not do everything and they don't hire everybody in the group. Why? If I have, in the other side, just knocking in the door, people that know how to use particular technology much better than me. Of course, as I said, after the 2000s, or the post-genomic era, the core facilities programs start to pop up, everything in every institute, with best, worse, sometimes better, sometimes worse. They start to open also for external users. That was not very normal. There was always some technology in the departments, but it was only for the particular department or university or faculty. But they start to open, and that's what makes it more accessible for everybody, because in the end of the day, that's what you need to give access to this infrastructure. The money we get is taxpayer. They pay for that. We pay for that. That means that we need to open it. And I think that's the way as well to bring it to society. And that's what the physicists do with the SER or with the ALMA. They actually spend millions of euros just to make it clear that it will go to society. And computers, internet, improving that, it actually comes from there. In life science, we have a lot to say. And we have a very good timing and momentum with all the problem with the corona. For me, this is the first meeting where there's a lot of people that I have been out of Sweden in 2 years. The first one, it was in Barcelona, but it was a small evaluation committee for the EMBL Barcelona. Then definitely we need this, and we need to move. Hopefully the corona will allow us to continue the meeting. Cutting edge infrastructures from all this time where we actually have gotten is core facilities and core technologies. We have these core facilities where actually the people working there, they are already collaborative. It is a facilitator, that's why I call core facility. And this is our job, to facilitate the work. And we actually make it crucial, because if you see the environments and the institutions that actually have really good core facilities, and we still think about the ones we have, I mean, you have fantastic examples already in your countries, is actually important for the biomedical and science research. And a core facility is actually a collaborator that will never say no. You probably, as a PI, sometimes try to collaborate and they tell you no. Well, facilities will not tell you no, except if it's not feasible technique. That does happen as well. Sometimes people are asking us, but maybe it's not feasible, it's not technical feasible in my facility, but might be in other facility. And we are also facilitators to tell you where you have to go. It's not only that we just only want to stay there with our niche technologies, but also we are having our own alliance and our own organizations and meetings where because it's impossible for one only facility or one institution to have absolutely everything. Of course, the core facilities have increased a lot, the speed of and the innovation that is actually so fast. And I'm not lying. I mean, I will have to read almost every week to see things going on. And maybe the technique, I mean, the microscopy that's my field, well, I'm a biochemistry and cell molecular biologist. As a molecular cell biologist, of course, I need microscopes where I have to see are far too small, and not only light microscopes, but also electron microscopes. The technology, the innovations are doing in the technology is going so fast that sometimes we have problems to follow, even for the people working in the facilities. That will be much difficult for group leaders that they are not thinking about that because they have their questions and they just only want to answer the questions. And by having core technologies or the core facilities around is making their lives easier. And especially, you will see not in the youngest ones, the junior PIs that might not have the money to buy all these technologies, the ones we are going to help in the most. And our mission, of course, is we have service and consultation and expertise. Please don't forget the expertise, and I will emphasize the expertise, the competence, and the people behind several times, because now that we have created the core facilities, we have to go a bit farther than just to have a group of people sitting around a bunch of technology. We act as support unit for the science and for the individual scientists, and that they actually need this technology. To differentiate the core facility, I want to put some points here. We can probably make this list a bit longer, but I think are the important ones. Because just because I have some microscopes or some sequencers or some mass spectrometers around me does not mean that you have a core facility. The core facility have to have an infrastructure around as well, have to have an administration, have to have a structure. An important thing is have to be independent of any department. This is something that you need to discuss. I mean, when we started in our facility, it was private money came from Wallenberg Foundation, very strong foundation in Sweden, a lot of money. And they give money. We were actually already alliance as well. They call the Sweden, the Southwest Sweden, that include Lund University in the south, Chalmers University and Gothenburg University, that was in Gothenburg region. The money and the universities plus the private money, they started in 2000, exactly in the genomic era. And from there, it was 5 years. After 5 years, we have to be passed to the universities, Lund, Chalmers, Gothenburg. In our case, we were very lucky because we have, as the first manager or coordinator of the core facilities in the Gothenburg University and in the Sahlgrenska Academy, that is the medical faculty where my facility is placed, we have a person, Tommy Nilsson, actually, that he was coming from the EMBL in Heidelberg. And as you know, EMBL in Heidelberg was very much pioneer of all the core facilities that we think about and we have now. And he was the coordinator together with Christian Bjorn, and he brought the same philosophy as the EMBL into our core facilities in the way that once the facilities, the money from the private foundation was out and they have to be fused into the universities and the faculties, there was very, very clear that our organization that involved facilities for proteomics, genomics, imaging and bioinformatics, it don't have to be linked to any department. It has to be an organization where they have a head, and the head have to be like a prefect of the department that talk directly to the dean and to the vice chancellor. And that is very important, because if you always have a prefect above the head, it's always a bit more problematic to pass information. I think that was the key to success, because we were the only group of facilities at that moment. It was facilities in Lund and facilities in Chalmers, but all the other facilities was fused into departments, and they just diffuse. The machines probably passed to some groups that they were using the most. Then it is very important that we are independent, that we are sufficient large. As I say, not two machines make a core facility in a research and infrastructure. We need to have a certain amount of personnel and equipment that allow us that will be also reasonable for the turnaround times. Any scientist can use the technologies as soon as they have, as I say, is technically feasible. And the founding here is always a bit tricky. It's the part that is probably more complex always, where to get the money. Of course, there are facilities in the world that have to be 100% self-sustained, where it's a really big burden, I would say. Because if you do that, you will have facilities, sometimes they only have basic, because that's basic, in my case, basic confocal microscopes or workhorses, where you know that you will have a lot of people. But what about if you want to push and you want to have a more advanced technologies that you know that it will not be hundreds of users every year? Then I think it has to be a combination in between the fees that is produced for the facility. I think facilities have to have fees that cannot be for free. When you give something for free, people have it from granted and misuse. I think it has to have some fees. It's giving this indication that things are not for free. And in the long-term sustainability of the facility, that's important, I promise you. And of course, they have to have institutional funding. And the institutional funding comes from their faculties, from the departments, from the university itself, and also external funding. My facility have like 50-50, actually 60% external funding, 40% internal funding, and then the fees. And that's the only way to go. You have to combine, and you will be a national as a Science Life Lab, a national as the National Microscopy Infrastructure, because the Research Council is giving us money, and also regional and local, because I get the money from Gothenburg University, and also international, because we are part of the Eurobioimaging. That means that in some of them you get money, and in some of them you get reputation. Not all of them get money, but the reputation is also very important, and very important for the university. Beyond the service, because obviously that's the job we have to do, the service, and contribute to the improvement of the life science in our case. But one important point, and we're talking about reputation, is now the visibility and the attractiveness, how attractive you can make your institution. Definitely, all these institutions around in Europe, States, or Asia, they are more attractive with respect to students and to the principal investigators or external collaborators when you have core facilities. More and more, one of the people, the PIs working around us, practically, they always bring their collaborators, external collaborators, to show our facilities, just to show the power and what we have there and what is important there, that we have high-tech technology, and that if they want to come, if you want to attract and recruit younger investigators, really good ones, you have to offer them technology. More and more, the younger generations definitely need that. And as I told you, they will not want to use all the money to buy microscopes or to buy mass spectrometers. They want to have people. They want to have people that will work together with the core facilities that you have around. It is a way to recruit, and more, actually, the new recruitments, elite recruitments, and I'm not talking only elite professors, I'm talking about the junior ones, that they will have more problems also, and they don't want to use the money for biotechnology. Why? If there is people that know how to use the technology much easy, I will just send my postdoc to get beautiful pictures because someone will help me to run the microscopes. It's a meeting point, it's an important meeting point for actually foster training and exchange experience as well. We are not only there, I mean, I use most of my time consulting. And it's not only about which microscope is the best. My background is in biology and cell biology. I can talk about other things, not only microscopy, and help to design the experiments. Because this is very important. This is very important to make it more efficient, to make it cheaper for the PI as well, and to make it easy for us that we go and know exactly what type of microscope they have to use. And as usual, there is no way that you can answer a question with only one microscope or with only one technology. You need many of them. The multimodality is actually a wonderful word. They are mentors. The core facilities, I said, together with this consultation, we become mentors and supervisors. I have not supervised a PhD student, but I have supervised hundreds of PhD students during all these 22 years I have been working in a core facility. Every single week that I have to training a student or a postdoc, and I have to follow up, and I have to supervise, and they ask me, not only the question related to that, because the biological questions is important and we have to always keep it in mind. That's what I tell my staff. It doesn't matter, you have to keep always technology can absorb you and you want to have more and more, but you need to have always the biological question in the head. It is, we become mentors, not just coachings, mentors. It's an entry point actually to get funding grants. Another PI as such, but at least a year I write 5 or 6 grants. Some of them are success, some of them are not. But we also get as well money into the facilities by applying. It's true, not all the heads of core facilities doing that way, but at least the facility itself is attracting the funding. And not only because I apply money, but you, the PIs, apply the money because you have got a science paper, you got a nature paper, and you got that because you have really great results that coming from core facilities. If I have not sit, and maybe one day I have to do it, and check what happened in these 22 years, call my PIs and asking how many grants have you got where you actually have shown something that you have done in our facility, and put all that money together. I get as well during the time where it's the period, April, I mean, spring, people is applying money, they contacted me because they want help or they want to explain a bit more what they want to do to be able to get a grant. And of course, one important thing as well, because we have a lot of technology, we can say that we are technology watch. This is our job. PI does not have the time, and I understand perfectly, to go and thinking about what to do and which machine and which technology and why. They don't need to do that, especially if they have core facilities around. We are in a privileged relationship with the instrumental manufacturers, and we can discuss with them as well with the developers. We actually help the developers to get better machines and to improve them. The majority of beta versions are sitting sometimes in core facilities. You don't know that because suppose it's confidential, but it's actually there, and using the applications of the researchers around to actually improve the instruments. Well, core facilities, there are technology important, but there is also something very important that is the human resources. And the funding schemes, we will leave it for today. I just wanted to stop a little because, and also, and this is part now as the core technologies for life science as part of the association, and just happens to be the president. One of the things we really think about is always the people, the core facility staff. And here, there is one important point that we always have to consider, and I think that's why we like this profession. Of course, we have to be very good in what we in what we do, technical. You want a microscopy, you will not look for a mass spectrometer. But there is certain skills and phenotypes that we have that is important as well, and it will not work, and it's not so easy to find. I promise you, because I'm quite used to hire people, and sometimes people fool you and telling you, oh yes, I will do this. They have to be service-oriented experts. They have to understand the user needs. They have to strive and to push the technology. That's, of course, important, as I say. And they have to take pride when we actually make other people's success. Because we are not going to be the ones probably in the article. Sometimes we just be acknowledged. But we have to be proud. I have been behind many science and nature papers, but my name is not there. But I felt like it was mine too. Why? Because I help that happens. I mean, the pride here is not having hundreds of papers anymore. Unfortunately, we still are some facilities, and I think that has to change. And we are working hard in that change when we use the KPIs, and always papers is important. Think about that we have many hundreds of projects that does not finish in a paper. And it's not because the facility did not do the job. It's because the question maybe was not the correct question, or because it's science. It's science. We don't have everything. That's why it's beautiful science, because we don't know. And even if we know, we don't know. And then we have to continue investigating and going through. That means that once you decide to work in a core facility, and that's where I have to mentor and coach my staff, especially because all of them, in my case, are PhDs. They have been postdocs, good postdocs, focusing on super selfish, egoist thinking. Oh, okay, I have very little now. Anyway, the important thing is that, you say 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes? Okay. Yeah, sorry, the people will hate me because I'm not talking about CTLS. Anyway, working in a core facility have to be a choice. And you have to understand that you will not have one project. You will have 200 projects that you have to follow. And this is really difficult. And people don't understand that until they start to work. Important thing in this, and I wanted to really emphasize, if I don't have time to show, I didn't know exactly the time I have. I have not got if I was 20 minutes or 5 minutes. Sorry for that. That's why actually the Core Technologies for Life Science, that this is an association, we have core technologies, all of them, not only microscopy, any core technologies, that we have created actually in 2010, but the reality as an association appeared in 2016. We have actually several activities that we do, but some of them is actually to actually be part of a beneficiary part of European grants. And talking about people, staff, because this is something that we really want to focus in core technologies, the training, the professional development, and the career path. That is not the same as professional development. We have a career path in academia, but we don't have a proper career path for facility staff. And now we're screaming for that. We need it. If we don't have that, it's impossible to motivate and to keep good facility people. As I said, you have a postdoc, PhDs, they're working for 5-6 years, and what? There will be core facility staff, scientific offices for always. You need to have also a proper career path. And this is actually where the Retrain Plus is doing. This is a European project that, thank you to my being in the Core Technologies for Life Science, and is also involving, of course, the University of Gothenburg, because they need to have the universities behind. This is a project that for the first time, they bring together research infrastructures, ERICS, this is what you mean here, core facilities, business management schools, and European universities to actually create a career path for facility staff. And the idea is that the students, and when I use the word students here, I mean undergraduate students, bachelor students, PhDs, people that still have not decided what they want to be in the end, that they also can see the core facilities is something to go. There is a new profession, there is a profession they can go, and that they will be very well considered. In the end, it will be great to create this European School for Research Infrastructures. We have done actually a survey. Unfortunately, I don't know if you can see this. This is in the work package number 2, that is quite important because it's where we define the training needs and the update of the competency profile. I think you are doing really well on the skills that you have now, that is communication and leadership, because this is actually where we, in the survey and individual interviews, have come up really strongly from the manager side. And from, of course, from the facility staff, where you want is a flexible people, service-oriented, curious. You have to be curious as well. And you actually go in the right way without the survey, because it's actually the need. Communications actually is very important. And we have noticed that. There is some challenge. I will not go now. You can see them here as well. We are still are poorly positioned if we compare to the rest of the institution, the institute or the university. And this is something that has to change because of all what I just told you before. And we are sometimes isolated in some cases more than others. I think you're doing a great job, and your institutions with your facilities, no career path, not proper recognition, not integration properly in the institution, that you always leave, oh yes, the core facilities, they will do, or they spend so much money. Obviously, they have technology. The technology PI doesn't pay for. Then, of course, it is expensive. Then we have, and one of the important things, and this is something that you do now here, is actually to join force and integration. I think this is the way to make the core facility succeed, but also the institution and the institute or the department succeed. You have to make the alliance, you have to make the groups, you have to work together. I think that's the only way. This is an example of my facility that I put it as the center. It's not the center of the universe, maybe for me sometimes, where I have money and relationship with different institutions, Nordic, European, and national. And this is really important. And let's go a little bit here in my 2 last minutes. As I say, we are a non-profit association that brings together not only scientists, we tried as well to bring technical and administrative staff, and we are very, very much trying to work with the non-managerial people, because that's the ones they need, and the ones they need the support to continue it and be the next managers. I will retire at some point, someone have to come. And of course, we want to network and exchange and experience. This is where we do more in our association, and the support of the development of our members. And that's where we train partners. They have the governance as any other governance. We also have our executive council, the board of directors, where I'm part of that, some working groups that are important, administrative assistance, and of course, the General Assembly, that is the one. This is how we have right now the leadership organization. I put some pictures with all the people that form it right now, our board of directors, and the different functions we have, and the groups and focus groups we have. As you see, the training working group is the biggest one, and the one have more, because we really focus quite a lot in the training part and in the professional development. Just a little bit through, you have faces that is not only my faces. It's the chair and vice chair of training. Of course, as you see, we have quite a certain number, but you are welcome to be participating and be part of our association anytime. We try to individualize trainings, so mentoring as well, shadowing programs, and also that's something that will start very, very soon. Unfortunately, during the last 2 years, we could not do anything more than webinars every month, because we could not travel. We have, of course, the communication working group that will make the visibility of all these activities. A community engagement working group. Obviously, we need to have a group that helping us to try to keep and increase steadily the association. It's not very simple, and now I know that it's even more complicated, because many institutions does not allow to use so much money due to the coronavirus. partnership and funding, we might need to discuss more with the Alliance for Life. And right now, I just advisory on the focus groups, core facility and big data. But we're starting to have as well academic institutions. The Pasteur Institute will be our first institutional partner, and we hope that we can get more institutional partners, and the same with the core. Value proposition, I will leave it there. As I say, important thing is to be part of European projects. We have been actually part of the catalog for research infrastructures, the CATIS project that just finished last year, and the Retrain Plus started last year. This is just the catalog there where you can actually, probably some of you already have put your facilities. The Retrain Plus, as just discussed before. Biannual Congress, this is something that we will have in 23. I will show you monthly webinars, our professional development course, shadowing programs. That was just the online from Lisbon. We could not be there, but we have to cancel in 2020 and go to 21. And I want to show this because I think it might be important. 23 is in Dublin, we hope. It's in person, we're working for that. But in 25, we actually have it in one of yours, in your institutions. We really hope that one is on site. You never know, maybe we get another coronavirus, but definitely we hope not. And with that, this is just the different webinars that we have done, just some examples of titles on that. We have done more than 20 webinars in the last year and a half. We started in the end of 2020. Professional development, as I said, this is something that we really try to focus a lot because the community is asking for. And activities as well, the partnership with industry and with institutions and with Alliance, not only in Europe, but also outside Europe. And with that, thank you and for giving me this opportunity.
For giving a great overview of the core facilities. I think we can take one or two questions if there are. We can leave the discussion after all these three presentations. But I might ask just one brief question.
Yes.
What do you think one thing that's most important for institution leaders to know about core facility, to keep in mind?
Well, I think, as I say, the important thing is not only the money, that as we know, that is important, but is to take care of the personnel that working in the core facilities. I think they need it in Sweden, and I think it's not only in Sweden, it's a general thing, and the Retrain Plus, but there is one more project called ARISE. Probably some of you have heard. This is pure life science, and it's also founded by the European community and the EMBL, and it's also based on improving the career path for facility staff. I think we really need to motivate that, because I notice in my own facility that if we don't do that, we lose the good technicians, the good scientists that are working in the facilities, because they go to industry or somewhere else where they are better treated as well in terms of, progress in their career. I will say that's very important. And the Alliance. But you do that very well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So let's have discussion maybe after this session. And now the floor should go to Simona Rataj. So.
Yes, good morning. Do you hear me?
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Yes, well, welcome. I would be glad to be there, perhaps next time. But I hope I will, after such a good presentation, I really hope that my energy will come through these wires. Okay. So hello again, and good morning from Slovenia and University of Ljubljana. This morning, I will talk briefly about the importance of university business collaboration, also known as university's third mission, if you heard of it. And now they are both included into the wider strategy and policy that is known as knowledge valorization. So no talk about teaching or research, what you are usually used to, but getting the research results closer to the market and to the society. This is what I eventually do in my professional life at the University of Ljubljana Technology Transfer Office. But I'm also involved in the knowledge valorization working group supporting the European Commission with our hands-on experience and suggestions from the market. And I'm asking also to you, is the topic of knowledge valorization and hence collaboration of researchers with industry important? Apparently, yes, but not only to me. Listed here are some of the policies of European Commission and also our member states tackling the topic of knowledge valorization. Among them, I would like to stress the new era. You will, I think, hear about it a little bit later. And the fact that knowledge valorization is included into the missions of of Horizon Europe. There is a knowledge valorization platform running under the umbrella of European Commission, offering many good practices from Europe. We can all and should all learn from them. But if we take a step back, what does knowledge valorization actually mean? Why it is important for you, me, for all of our universities? Well, the term represents the process of creating knowledge, value from knowledge and transforming research results into sustainable solutions that will benefit the society and the economy, not just in Europe, but also wider. The definition is quite clear, but it is very wide and very comprehensive. So to give you a little more insight or the feeling what it's meant here, the main goal of the policy and its actions is to increase the impact of research and innovation investment of European Union and its member states. The impact needs to be seen in the valorization culture of the policies, so at decision-making level, then in the management of intellectual property, intellectual capital of organizations, developing research and innovation, and last but not least, the players, the academia, industry, the investors, citizens and policymakers. We should all be connected more efficiently and more tightly. And we should be collaborating in developing solutions to our societal challenges. And let us go into more detail which specific areas, actions, and tools are meant here. So each day in European Union, the universities, research organizations, and also innovative companies develop many research results and solutions that have market potential innovations, in fact. The EU wishes to increase the impact of these particular research and these particular potential innovation, not only among enthusiasts, so the few people that are motivated by themselves, but also among wider target groups, so academic and also industrial researchers. And the research results can be transformed. It is anticipated that they will be most efficiently transformed through to sustainable solutions through 6 different channels. We will go through them shortly, one by one. I will include more specific actions and grouped practices that are meant in each channel. The expected outputs of knowledge valorization are quite the usual. So I'm sure you are familiar with new products, new services, then deep tech companies, science-based startups and spin-offs. Then, of course, intellectual property rights, patents in particular, but also copyright and business secrets. But two of the outputs are a bit more new. These are evidence-based policies and social innovation. And the impact of knowledge valorization shall be seen really widely, so all over the society. In the governance, in prosperity and health, in well-being, in social fairness, new skills and more quality jobs, and of course in the sustainability of our societies. So this is a quite huge PowerPoint, but do not fret. I will not go into detail. Just, I would like to say that more is achieved with honey than with vinegar, or with a carrot than instead of a stick. The motivations are important not only in infrastructure, but also in the society. Therefore, the Commission and the member states are using many incentives. You can see few of them on the right side. So a short overview of tools and actors involved in each specific knowledge valorization channel. And now we will go into more detail of each channel. So the first one is academia, industry, joint research and mobility. So it is meant here the enhancing of collaboration between academia and industry through joint collaborative research, the mobility as said, through changing the academic culture and rewarding systems for collaborating with industry. This is a task that is daunting, slow, but necessary, and in the end, it will be rewarding. It can be rewarding. Building entrepreneurial skills of the researchers help, so does capacity building for collaborating with industry. You will have also many workshops today that are also targeting or partly targeting the some of the skills that you need to have when you collaborate with industry. Also, there are incentives for the industry, grants and tax incentives that are really appealing for them. Some of the specific actions related to university business cooperation and skills development. Here on the left, you can see a very well-known and biggest innovation support program in the EU, Horizon Europe. Also, meant are other programs that are running in our countries and also cross-country or over borders, like Interrex, then regional social and development funds and other programs that support innovation. Also shared infrastructure that is already existing, but EU wishes more of them, especially joint laboratories, sharing competences, sharing skills, and sharing equipment between academia and industry. Then building new innovative and innovation in innovative groups. This is what I personally call centers of excellence, EIT kicks, clusters, and other groups that are connecting researchers with industry. There are also many entrepreneurial trainings available, first in your universities, but also many are offered by the actors of innovation support environment, especially university incubators, science parks, EIT kicks, and also many others, many other providers. The second channel is dedicated to the creation of research-driven startups and spin-offs. The innovation thrives in an open and connected environment. Therefore, it is important to ensure the basics for it. We need to allow the researchers, we need to allow you to be creative, but also motivate you to look outside the box, to think in terms of needs and solutions of societal challenges, of companies' challenges. So ensuring framework conditions for entrepreneurship is necessary for each country, for each university. Providing the grants for startups, building the networks with investors all over the EU, ensuring financing, means private and public, in every stage of innovation development, from the proof of concept funding at universities or regional funds to seed funding, angel investments, and venture capital for growth and scale up. Some of these activities need to be assured at home, so at our own universities, but others we can compensate with good business network of researchers and technology transfer offices. Again, two tools explained a bit more in detail with elements that need to be available to researchers, innovators, and the companies. Here, I would really like to stress that money, as I agree with Julia, it really is important, but it is not everything. So we need to, of course, provide the initial funding for development of potential innovation and for the startups. But that is not all. Equally important is the support of the TTO, of the infrastructure behind, so the technology transfer offices, access to mentors, coaches, and international business network, because they have the complementary competences that are needed by us and also by the researchers. The third channel are intermediaries. As I already stressed, money is not everything. The support structures needs to be there and needs to be work efficiently and on a really high quality level. I could give you a comparison, a little comparison. Imagine a child who doesn't know the meaning of money, and I give him 1,000 euros. What will he do? He will buy sweets, he will buy games perhaps, phone perhaps, and some toys. But he will scarcely, or he will not buy himself a book that is not so funny, for example. He will not have a training course or even buy services of a mentor. He will do what he usually does and knows, and he will not invest in something he is not familiar with. In some ways, we are the same as children. We focus on what we know, and we are afraid of the unknown. And here comes the role of the intermediaries. They are the first contact point for researchers and industry that are looking for new opportunities. They also promote additional instruments and services to boost the innovation potential of research through networking, mentoring activities, coaching, and exchange of best practices. And we are coming to the fourth of 6 channels. So the fourth channel is engagement of citizens and public bodies. Responsible research and innovation, I'm sure you heard of, or even in the previous Horizon 2020 program, Citizen Science. Engaging with citizens ensures that new knowledge leads to innovative solutions and the ones that matter to people. Citizens-led solutions have higher societal acceptance and they are therefore more effective. And citizen-led demand for science-based solutions can be a driving force for policymaking. For one of the such case was the European Green Deal. The Commission involved local communities in working towards a more sustainable future in initiatives that seek to combine societal pull and also technology push. And in Horizon Europe, the current program, citizen involvement, is expected to even intensify. The examples of co-creation spaces, of living labs, and innovative cities can be seen all over the world. In Ljubljana, we have 2 co-creation spaces and 1 dedicated living lab innovation city at one of our biggest shopping malls in the European Union. The company is not just about shopping, it is using the shoppers to test and give feedback on innovation, among them also autonomous mobility. And I think that we would need more of such co-creative spaces and innovative cities to ensure also other types of innovation or other sectors of innovation to thrive. Okay, getting to the 5th channel. We will have a workshop afterwards about IP, so intellectual property. And you can see here that intellectual property management is really important. As properly organized intellectual property framework ensures that the creatives of research outputs have a competitive advantage. Good IP management fosters innovation, creativity, and knowledge sharing, and improves the chances of knowledge reaching the market and benefiting society. I'm sure you will be able to get most of the IP support that you see here colored in blue at your own technology transfer offices. European Commission has just recently updated the guidance document with recommendations on how to manage the IP in our knowledge transfer activities in EU. So we are also, the TTO office are somewhat standardized. And you will see here that standardizations and standards represent also an important and common language that allows researchers, people, and industry to communicate, produce, and commercialize products and services. Standards are a crucial tool to get the most of research results. And this is because they help researchers bring the innovation to the market by making their results transparent and ensuring high quality. They build consumer trust in innovative technology because they guarantee safety and quality, and they allow technologies and materials to interoperable. A standard provides details on the use and content of technology of a material. It is much easier to know when and how it can be used in combination with other technologies. And last but not least, and still really important channel is knowledge dissemination and policy uptake, ensuring that advances in science and technology are as open as possible. And this is vital for our knowledge-driven world, where data is increasingly valuable and access to data considered a competitive advantage. Research results such as studies, data, models, experiments, and theoretical analysis greatly benefit data-informed policymaking. They can help decision makers better understand the nature of the challenges they face and the possible implications of the decisions that they will make. And one of the most obvious practical uses of knowledge dissemination and science communication and policy uptake has been the COVID epidemic in the last 2 years. It is really important. You can see from this period to share the knowledge not only with your peers, but also with wider society, the policymakers, and so forth. So getting back to knowledge valorization, why shall I do it? Why do I gain from it? Why should I collaborate with companies and society in addition to the teaching and research? Well, there are many positive benefits, and you can see the fruit of your labor affecting many people and their lives in a positive way. Just a small example, really small example. Last year, a group of scientists in Slovenia decided to form a Facebook group, Science Mamas, and they helped more than 5,000 mostly pregnant women and young mothers to uncover the false news and battle the myths regarding the COVID vaccine. They have done it in their spare time, and they have calmed with their expertise and dedication many people and contributed to their well-being. Here are some useful links for further reading. If you would be interested later on, I suppose the PowerPoint can be shared with all of you. And I really hope that I was able to present you really shortly the importance of collaborating and communicating in society and industry. And all the elements that are meant here. So there are many possibilities, many ways to communicate and to help your research have an impact on the society. And for further information or any questions, I'm at your disposal. And thank you very much for your attention. Any question, perhaps?
Yes, thank you very much, Simona, for a very insightful and inspiring presentation. If there are any questions, we'll see. Let's see if there is a question here in the hall. If people still think, and I would perhaps have a question again from the perspective of institutional management. Of course, to motivate people in science that they want to do what's interesting in first place for them, then what they are paid for and what they are being assessed for. So how can we better support in research assessment, knowledge valorization? What should we do to have a more, to recognize better the diversity of research outputs in the way we assess research from the perspective of your work?
Perhaps two examples from University of Ljubljana. One is, I'm sure each university is quite autonomous when it comes to the rules of habilitation. So what are the measures or the criteria that a researcher can be promoted for? So usually these are articles that are published in well-known and high impact publications, but you can do it also, you can add IP protection, so national or European patents, and even collaboration with industry as an important part of your habilitation rules and criteria. This has been done, I think that about 2 or 3 years in the University of Ljubljana, and there is an increasing number of patents that have been applied for, but also researchers that not only patent and leave the patent to cease, but also to start thinking about how this patent would really come to the society or to specific industry. So that was one incentive. And another one is, I will talk about the work a little bit more in the workshop, but 2 years ago, we have also established a POC fund. So proof of concept fund internally at our university. It is meant only for our researchers, and it is giving us some sort smaller amounts of money, up to 25,000 euros, to develop the research from TRL, so the technology level 3 to 4 or even higher. So together, with not just money, but with a lot of support that comes with receiving the money from Innovation Fund, or coaching, mentoring, and also the work, the researchers that are getting this fund work with our office, with my colleagues, and we support them with connections to companies and to with additional training and so forth. So it is slow process, but it is manageable. There are just 2 examples I could perhaps look into, and I'm sure in this knowledge realization platform that I was talking about, there are many good examples that we could also look for and learn from and implement them in our own universities.
Okay, thank you very much for very practical suggestions, I would say, and I think it will be an interesting workshop later today in the online space. Okay, so as I see some people are nodding, they're looking forward. So now the time is probably to thank you and give you some rest before the workshop, and to give the floor to Kurt Deketelaere, the Secretary General of the League of European Research Universities, if Kurt is there. So good morning from Tartu.
Good morning all. Thank you for the invitation, and happy to address you this morning. Being based in Helsinki, it would have been nice if I just could pop over and come down to Tartu, but unfortunately the agenda didn't allow to do that today. Let me have a look if I can share my screen and to show my slides. Share. Is this okay? If somebody could say yes. Okay. So thanks again for the invitation, and the organizers, Alliance for Life, have asked me to say a few words this morning about LERU, about Crowd Helix, where I'm also involved, and focus in particular today on ERA.
I'm sorry, Kurt, I think you should put it full screen, and then it would be okay, just for better visibility.
Okay.
Yes,
that okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. All right, so these are the 3 issues that I would like to say a few words about this morning, and obviously if you would have any questions afterwards, always happy to answer them. So let me just say a few words about LERU. I don't know if All of you are familiar with LERU, but we are, of course, the League of European Research Universities. We are a group of 23 research-intensive universities, which are spread over 12 countries in Europe. You see on the slide which universities these are. It's clear that not all of them are based in the European Union. Today we have 7 of our 23 members which are not in the EU, 5 members in the UK, Edinburgh, Oxford, Cambridge, UCL and ICL in London. And we have 2 members, Geneva and Zurich, which are based in Switzerland. You know, of course, from all the news that you see on a daily basis with regard to EU research and innovation policy, that we work very hard to make sure that at the end of the day, and the sooner the better, I would say, as well the UK as Switzerland can associate to the framework program Horizon Europe, because obviously this is absolutely key, and we see already the first very negative consequences of this non-association yet, namely the fact that all kinds of ERC grantees are now getting into trouble in the UK and are put before the choice to leave the country with their grant or to give up on their grant, which is of course absolutely unacceptable. So we are a group of 23 universities in 12 countries which promote on a daily basis the interests of frontier research with all the EU institutions, and obviously taking into account what is of interest for our universities, it's clear that we have a very broad agenda, a very broad set of topics which are tackled by my office and by the collaborators. Just to give you one example, later this morning we will put out a statement dealing with, for example, the important recent decision by the European Council to put EU strategic autonomy as a kind of guiding principle now for EU policies in the future, obviously as a consequence of this terrible war in Ukraine. And obviously this EU strategic autonomy approach will have a number of benefits for EU research and innovation policy, but probably it also will have a number of downsides. And so in that sense, we will be warning later today that this EU first strategy or this EU strategic autonomy approach certainly cannot limit activities of universities which have a global aim, be it within the European context, be it within an international context. The League is a closed group in the sense that universities which we would like to join the League, we invite them. Universities cannot apply themselves to become a member of the League, and at this point in time, the group is closed in the sense that we don't have the intention to increase the number of members in the short term. Next to promoting the interests of frontier research on a daily basis with the EU institutions, the second very important goal of LERU is that we try to develop within the group, but also at the benefit of many other universities out there, best practices on all kinds of policy issues and policy topics, be it content-wise with regard to specific disciplines, be it with regard to university management of universities in the very large sense of the word. Perhaps also indicate that a basic condition for our members is that, of course, they must be research intensive, and preferably they also must be comprehensive universities. And although that I know that the amount of universities which offer, I would say, for 100% all the possible university degrees in a country which the domestic legislation is allowing, of course, the number of fully 100% comprehensive universities is limited, but with regard to the LERU members, with a few exceptions, we aim really for a high degree of comprehensiveness of our members. So this is just a few words about the League.
with the leak. And let me have a look how I can change slides. Yeah. With the leak, as you have seen on the map of Europe, we have no members in Central Europe, and looking at your alliance, of course, that's of course a very important element. But nonetheless, we were convinced several years ago, and this led to a specific initiative in 2016, that we wanted to increase our collaboration with research-intensive universities in Central Europe. And this has led to the creation of a specific group, which is called the C7, Central Europe 7, which is a group of 7 research-intensive universities in 7 different countries: Charles University Prague, University of Ljubljana, University of Belgrade, University of Warsaw, University of Tartu, Vosloorend University in Budapest, and the University of Zagreb are part of this group. And since 2016, we have regular contacts with those 7 universities. We try to exchange best practices. We try to lobby together in Brussels and other places for specific issues of research and innovation policy. We try to help the rectorates of those universities also with domestic lobbying, with the development of domestic best practices on all kinds of issues of university policy, university management, etc. And I'm very glad to see, also one of the reasons why I was glad to accept this invitation to address you this morning. I'm glad to see that the Zagreb, Tartu, and Ljubljana are also part of this Alliance for Life. Obviously, the European University Alliances are becoming a very important new partner in everything that is dealing with promoting research, innovation, and education at the level of the European Union. Next to collaboration within the EU, between the LERU members on the one hand, between the LERU members and the C7 universities, LERU is of course also a group which collaborates with sister organizations worldwide. We have close contacts with the Group of 8 in Australia, which are the leading research-intensive universities in Australia. The same goes for the U15 in Canada, the CINA in China, the Association of East Asian Research Universities in East Asia, the German U15, Russell Group, the Hong Kong 3, the RU11 in Japan, and of course our big American sister organization, the Association of American Universities in the US. I must say that COVID had many downsides, of course, but one of the pluses was that the collaboration between LERU and these groups of universities outside Europe mostly, with the exception of the Russell Group and the German U15, has intensified very significantly over the past 2-3 years now. And all of them will also be represented. Several of your universities will be represented at the LERU Anniversary Conference. LERU will be coming 20 years, has its 20th anniversary this year in May, next month, where we will meet in Leiden, where the original Act of Foundation was signed in May 2002 by a number of the present LERU members. Finally, by way of introduction, LERU is also cooperating with several institutions of the United Nations. LERU as an organization has consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council and is a member of the United Nations Academic Impact. And we are very glad that one of our members, a very important member, the University of Geneva, based in Geneva, of course, but also Geneva being the seat for the absolute majority of UN institutions worldwide. In Geneva, we have the seat of more UN institutions than in New York, where the headquarters of the United Nations is. But thanks to this geographical coincidence, I must say, that we have been able also over the past few years to set up what is called the Geneva Science Policy Interface, with which we try to bring together UN institutions and LERU universities or universities from our global network, which are requested for advice, consultancy, support by UN institutions. So in this sense, we try to be a go-between between universities worldwide and UN institutions, which request support, advice on all kinds of policy issues. And then we are, of course, happy to give them the necessary support that we can deliver as universities. LERU office, just to say a few words about that. LERU as an organization is based in Leuven, in Belgium. It's also my alma mater and the university where I'm still a full professor. So if you ever will be around, just let us know, and we would be certainly happy to welcome you. Certainly when COVID is finally behind us and we all get back to the office in a regular way, certainly would be happy to welcome you in Leuven. As I said in the introduction, I'm not only the Secretary General of the League of European Research Universities, but I'm also the widening ambassador of Crowd Helix. And Crowd Helix is an organization which is today run by a number of people which also in the past or still are based at LERU universities, and which are in fact doing one of the things that LERU is not doing, namely to bring people together to work around specific research projects and research proposals. At the end of the day, LERU is, let's say that it is, don't shy away from that. We are a lobby organization. We want to influence policy making, policy development at EU level for everything that concerns our universities. But what we don't do is to bring our members together to set up joint research projects, joint research initiatives, joint research publications, and things like that. This is something that is in the remit of the members themselves, and they are the ones who have to take initiative for that. So I was very glad to see a number of years ago that my dear friend Michael Brown, at that time still at UCL, set up Crowd Helix as a kind of as an open innovation platform, as you see on the slide, that forges links between an international network of excellent researchers on the one hand and innovating companies on the other hand, so that they can plan and deliver pioneering collaborative projects. And Crowd Helix is all about bringing people and institutions together to see how they can team up to develop specific projects, specific initiatives, dealing with research and innovation, also some education, and how they can be successful in, for example, all kinds of funding streams like Horizon Europe, but also other funding streams which are out there. And they have done that, and they still do that, by setting up a number of helixes dealing with very specific topics and creating around those topics very large communities of universities, university researchers, university research officers, which then can interact, can team up with other universities, with companies which are also in the field of research and innovation, and at the end of the day then can pioneer all kinds of very interesting projects. You see a number of figures there on the slide. Almost 9,000 collaborators over the different helixes, something like plus 500 members active in 51 countries. So it's really a network that I can only support and recommend to all of you if you would be interested in beefing up your collaboration network, if you are in need of specific partners to team up with for research proposals, through their website and through their platform, they can bring you very easily to interested and specific partners on all kinds of issues. But let me come now to the key issue of my talk today, and this key issue is dealing with the European research area, which is one of my own pet topics. I'm still, at the end of the day, a university professor who is a professor in EU law and dealing with specifically EU energy, environmental and climate change law. But obviously, the internal market, the centerpiece of EU policy and EU policy making, is very close to my heart. And it's clear that after so many decades of realization of the internal market within the European Union, where we have now a free circulation of goods, people, services, and capital, that we still miss one very important element, and that is this free circulation of knowledge. And you know that since the year 2000 in the European Union, we tried to develop a kind of free circulation of knowledge, and we do that in the framework of what is called the European research area, which should be an area where there is a free circulation of knowledge, of researchers, of students within the EU member states, and in this way come to a much stronger research area than in the case that we still would be 27 separate research and innovation islands in the European Union. You know that the ERA has known a difficult delivery over the past 2 decades, that the initiative that Commissioner Busquin launched in the year 2000 already was picked up again in 2012 by Commissioner Hagen-Quinn, then a little bit neglected by my dear friend Carlos Moedas, who had other priorities at that point in time as commissioner, and today has been revitalized, I would say, by Commissioner Maria Gabriel, who has been putting the creation of a new European research area, as you see on the slide, based on excellence, competitive, talent-driven, and open, high on her agenda. And you see the definition of the European research area, which is given in the many documents that the Commission has been publishing over the past 2 years on this issue. The European research area should be a single borderless market for research, innovation, and technology across the EU, where countries come together and improve their research policies and systems, and where there is free movement of researchers, knowledge, and innovation. And this new European research area, as it is called, to make it distinct from the previous attempts to realize the European research area, and not forget, the realization of the European research area is a treaty obligation, as well for the Union institutions as for the member states. So that's why it is absolutely necessary to keep this topic on the policy and the legal agenda. The 4 priorities which are now being put forward for the following years is prioritizing investments and reforms in research and innovation towards the green and digital transition to support Europe's recovery. Secondly, boost market uptake of research and innovation results. You know that we are working hard, well, at least the Commission is working hard also on the creation of a European innovation area next to the European research area and the European education area, which we also have meanwhile. Third priority being strengthened mobility of researchers and the free flow of knowledge and technology through greater cooperation among the member states, and to improve access to excellence for researchers across the EU. All of this has led to, as I already said, a lot of policy initiatives by the present Commissioner over the past few weeks and months. I'm not going to repeat all of that because being in a European University Alliance, I'm quite sure, based on my experience with university alliances, that you all follow this from close by. You know that we have had council conclusions dealing with the ERA after that the Commission proposed its own proposals on ERA, that we had council conclusions on the future governance of the ERA, that we have an ERA policy agenda for 2022 to 2024, that we have adopted an ERA pact in the European Union at this point in time. So the amount of policy intentions, the amount of policy documents has been enormous on this topic over the past few months. And it's clear that, well, you are based in Tartu today, speaking for a number of universities, primarily based in Central Europe, it's clear that a very important part of the present ERA agenda, in combination with the present Horizon Europe agenda, is widening of participation and spreading excellence across Europe. And I must say that 2 years down the road now, or 3 years down the road now, with this commissioner, Commissioner Maria Gabriel is certainly a very strong defender of this widening of participation and spreading of excellence across the European Union, across the 27 member states, the development of a balanced European research area, which is based, let's repeat it once again, on excellence, competition, is absolutely key also to her. And that's why this part of Horizon Europe, which links with the ERA policy agenda, is so important. You know that a number of tools already have been launched in the past in order to make sure that participation is widened, that excellence is spread in a better balanced way across Europe through, as you see on the slide there, initiatives like teaming, twinning, ERA chairs, cost. And I know by experience from my contacts with the LERU CE7 that the knowledge of all those initiatives in your universities is of course very high. I don't have to tell you anything about that. You're very familiar with those initiatives, including cost. You know that one of the new initiatives, or a number of new initiatives, has been launched to support also this widening agenda through Horizon Europe. In addition to teaming, twinning, ERA chairs, cost actions and things like that. For example, the strengthening of the national contact point system, proposal pre-checks, the hop-on system, and the possibility for participants from widening countries to join already existing consortia, matchmaking services, the brain circulation grants, fostering of excellence in universities. All of this is new, and all of this is funded through Horizon Europe. You know that 3.3% of the total Horizon Europe budget is devoted to this widening of participation and increase of excellence vis-a-vis the widening country. And you see on the slide there that the hope, of course, is that this enlarged agenda, widening, this interaction between Horizon Europe and the ERA policy agenda will lead to a number of results and impacts, increased scientific and innovation capacities for all research and innovation actors in the widening countries. The presentation that we just got by Simona, which is a very important topic, namely technology transfer and technology transfer offices in universities across the European Union, is something which is absolutely key and important. So certainly that is a very important development, which also will be supported by this widening agenda of the European Commission. You probably all know, and I hope that you participated, that the day before yesterday, there was an info day organized by the European Commission, DG Research and Innovation, on the work program for widening and linking Horizon Europe with the ERA policy agenda. You know that several goals are coming up with deadlines by the end of the year. So I certainly would support you to have a look at that and to see to what extent that those goals can also benefit your organization. And as I just said a few minutes ago, it's clear that if you're looking for specific partners, that certainly the Crowd Helix platforms there can be very supportive for your activities. But the organizers also asked me to say a few words about how LERU is thinking about the creation of this European research area. And with LERU, we have been a very strong defender of the European research area, and we have been, through numerous publications, trying to support the European Commission in its development of a strong ERA agenda. I want to say that today, end of April 2022, that there is nonetheless a certain disappointment within the League about how this European research area is now trying to be developed. This new European research area is now trying to be developed. You see here on the slide a press release that we did on the 6th of December of last year, where we evaluated the outcome of the Competitiveness Council with regard to the Council conclusions on the governance of ERA, the creation of the ERA Forum, the adoption of the ERA Pact, and all those other nice and good-sounding initiatives that the Commission had approved that day by the 27 member states of the Union. At this point in time, LERU says, well, obviously all those documents that the Commission is producing on ERA, they are really ticking all the right boxes. They are really using all the important buzzwords which we know today in research innovation policy. But it's also clear that producing good sounding documents with the right box ticking and buzzword use is not necessarily a guarantee that things are going to change. And we are worried that things are not going to change or are not going to change fast enough, because in fact, three things are lacking in the whole ERA approach that we are knowing today. First of all, there is a lack of legal backing of ERA, in a sense that we think that after 22 years of trying to create a European research area in a bottom-up way with the member states and doing everything on a voluntary basis as it comes down to taking all kinds of actions, that this has proven not to be the right approach. And that's why LERU has been asking now for several years that we would come to a kind of legal framework which forms the European research area and which indicates what are do's and don'ts for the member states with regard to this topic. We say that the creation of a fifth freedom, the free circulation of knowledge within Europe, is not going to be realized if there is no legal backing of this notion within the EU context. We all have seen that the free circulation of goods, capital, services, and people over the past decades, being the core of the single European market, was impossible to realize without the creation of a very significant legal framework. Well, we think it is impossible to think that ERA is going to be created if it doesn't have the necessary legal backing. And I think that many of you experience also at this point in time through your activities in the framework of your European University Alliance, Alliance for Life, you also experience probably on a daily basis what this lack of a legal framework has as consequences. Just try to create a kind of joint program, a joint degree, a joint research project, exchange staff and people, students, by research equipment in a kind of multinational setting, in a kind of setting of collaboration between universities in different countries. And you all will see, and you all will have experienced what are the limitations which are brought to that endeavor by national domestic legislation in the field of research, in the field of education, in the field of innovation, in the field of tax, in the field of social security, and how this is blocking a smooth and dynamic development of the alliance that you want to build, of the initiatives that you want to create, of the actions that you want to launch. So we need legal backing. Secondly, we need political backing. Up until this moment, the ERA is still too much a European Commission initiative. The support by the member states is still too limited, even in this new European research area approach, which is now on the table. The member states are still free at the end of the day to pick from the ERA policy agenda and action plan those initiatives or those actions which they like and which they think could be of interest for their country to develop. Obviously, this is going to lead to a kind of patchwork of actions, of initiatives which are not coordinated, which will have limited geographical representation, and which at the end of the day are not going to give the necessary contribution to the realization of the European research area that we need. We need actions, initiatives, which are EU-wide, which are involving the 27 EU member states. And at the end of the day, action should not be depending on how many member states are now interested in doing something on this topic or that topic from the ERA policy agenda. And at the end of the day, we get too many different approaches. So we need much more political backing. And the member states have to realize that at the end of the day, they will have to move and they have to stop with defending almost in an exclusive way a national agenda, a national set of priorities. They have to get a European mindset. They have to get aware of the European priorities which are out there, and that we need joint political action to realize them. And finally, the last thing that we need, and this is certainly one of the ways in which political support can be expressed, that is financial support. The Commission and the Member States have now, over the past few months, adopted and supported an enormous European research area agenda with a very broad European research area action plan, with a very nice European research area pact. And all of that leads to new actions to be developed by governments, and through those governments by universities and research institutes. Obviously, this increased set of priorities, this increased set of actions, next to what we already have to do in the framework of Horizon Europe, in the framework of Erasmus+, in the framework of all kinds of other initiatives of the EU in which we are participating. All of that now is imposed on universities without any additional funding or additional financial funding, which is worth that name. You all know by experience that the money that you get for your European University Alliance, well, at the end of the day, is still peanuts compared to the cost of what you are putting into that initiative. And I'm the last one to say, of course, that you have to do that for the money. But the thing is that those big initiatives, like an alliance, as you have, cannot be realized if there is not the legal backup, if there is not the political backup, but certainly also if there is not the financial backup. And so that means that member states and the European Union have to put more money into this set of initiatives. The realization of the ERA agenda within the existing and presently available budgets, as well at EU level as at national level. Well, this is not going to work. This whole idea of European university alliances is doomed if not much more money is brought to the table, if not much more political support is brought to the table, and if not a number of legal tools are created which have to support, at the end of the day, your actions. So these are the things that I wanted to say. Obviously, I admire very much the enormous drive and the enormous energy that DG Research and Innovation and DG Education and Culture, under the lead of Commissioner Maria Gabriel, are putting into this European research area. And I'm always very disappointed to see that their enormous drive and energy then is blocked at member state level, with member states which are still too reluctant to get into this agenda, which are still too much thinking about national priorities, national interests. And we all should be aware that at the end of the day, the big European research area idea and the big idea, the great idea of European university alliances is only going to be realized if those three important elements are brought together and are beefed up: legal backing, financial backing, and political backing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kurt, and also thank you for mentioning the need of this policy work at various levels. That's perhaps also something we can help with as Alliance for Life, and I'm glad you have also mentioned that 3 of this Alliance members are among your collaborating institutions from these member states. So let's keep in touch. And before we go to make ourselves ready for next agenda, maybe there can be questions. I would have a question. You mentioned the focus of the new era on green transition, of course, which is the direction in which Europe decided its smart specialization as a continent. So would you say, because most of our members in both networks are, in your case all, and most institutions in our case, are universities, would you say that a skill set that currently is embedded in the degree programs we offer is attuned with the need for a green transition, or will we face a big challenge and change in the education part of our mission?
Thank you very much for this question, and of course addressing this question to somebody who's already for 30 years a professor of environmental, energy and climate law is of course an open door, in a sense that of course there is not enough of that. It's clear that we all should be helping the sustainability agenda of the European Commission, the Green Deal agenda of the European Commission. And I was very glad to see that over the past months, the past year probably already now, the European Commission, together then finally also with the Council and the Parliament, have developed an agenda with regard to sustainability and education. And not only at the level of universities, but also at the level of high schools, primary schools, and things like that. The whole educational system needs a new kind of input, needs this orientation towards sustainability. Not only the organizations have to become sustainable, but also the things that we teach, the things that we research upon, the way in which we train our students, our researchers, educate our students, train our researchers. All of that should be much more having a sustainability perspective, a sustainability agenda. And that's also one of the reasons why LERU is a strong supporter of this communication which the Commission put forward on sustainability and education. And for example, recently, LERU has put out a statement itself, I think at the end of last year, in which we have been urging our members, for example, that's only one example, to completely reorientate our investments and our public procurement in the direction of much more sustainable purchases. And it's clear that there is still an enormous amount of work to be done there, but it is an absolute priority, I would say.
Thank you very much. And I think that's also an interesting input for the discussions of this Alliance board, which will be due after some short time. So thank you very much, Kurt. Thanks everyone of the speakers for attending us today. Thank you. And I think we now need to refresh ourselves a bit.